think it was Tommy Morrison who said it years ago famously, and he said almost every top heavyweight boxer is using performance enhancing drugs. What's your take on that?
100%. I've got no, yeah. I know for a fact that there's 2 or 3 guys that I fought that I knew through various means they were using something. Yeah, so I was definitely targeted because of the American Operation Raw deal.
At first you denied it and said you didn't know how it had happened. What made you then switch it to admitting that you'd admitted that you'd been doping? What made the switch?
I just got tired of all the lies, to be honest with you. I just got tired of all the lies.
Final question from me, Larry, and this might be a tough one to ask. I don't know if you heard me there. Final question from me. This is a difficult one. I appreciate, so don't have to answer if you don't want to. How many of the top boxers, percentage-wise, now do you think might be doing PEDs?
Top boxers.
Yeah. So world level and above.
Let's call them pay-per-view type standard.
Yeah.
80 to 90%.
Okay, now.
Look at you. You're running in circles. Which way will you turn?
So, Larry, let's forward on to a bit of a sticky patch that you were in your career. Is obviously when you failed the doping test, which is pretty much of a hot topic now. There's a lot more boxing fans talking about how does it work with UKAD, how does anti-doping work, how does the system work, is it fit for purpose, is it not fit for purpose? So tell us from your point of view, when you got notified that you'd failed a test, what was that like? How did that feel when you got the notification? Because at first, obviously we'll come on to at first you denied it and admitted it later on, but when you got the notification that you'd failed when you were riding high, how did that feel?
I kind of knew it was coming because so they tested me on the night I fought Sam Sexton.
Yeah.
But they came to my house I think 2 days before that, and I wasn't in. So I kind of thought, yeah, they're coming after me. So I wasn't surprised when I got the test, and I knew I wasn't clear because I hadn't been paying any attention because I hadn't been tested up until then. So and up until then I was very careful, but because I wasn't getting tested, I thought to myself, okay, don't need to worry about it. I don't even care when I come off or whatever. So so when I got the test, I knew I was going to pop positive anyway. So
you think you were targeted, Larry, or do you think it was just random testing and it was just your turn?
I was targeted. Because basically, so I used to get all my stuff from China, and Americans.
Larry, just go back a bit because we just lost you again. Your signal just went again. So you think you were targeted, or do you think you were random?
Yeah, so I was definitely targeted because of the American Operation Raw deal. So my name was given to UKAD by the American USADA. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Larry,
they used that to then target test me.
Larry, can we go back a bit here? Because I feel like people watching this will always want to know why. I think that's the question a lot of people might ask. Naturally, you're a strong guy, big, strong, you can box. They're going to ask, why did you think you needed performance-enhancing drugs to take you to that next level? Did you think it was impossible for you to do it naturally? Did you think, like, what made you want to go down the PD route?
Well, to be honest, I'd already been down the PD route. I was a sprinter, and said to me that there was no difference in boxing. So basically it was, do I go to a gunfight with a knife? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I know a lot of people are doing something, then I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. I know it's a dilemma a lot of athletes, particularly boxers, have, but I just felt in myself that I'll be doing myself an injustice if I didn't, the best chance of succeeding. Not that it would allow me to succeed or guarantee any success, but I just felt that it would give me the best chance of succeeding because I knew a lot of other people were doing it.
Is that in America or Britain as well, Larry? Or would that?
Britain. I mean, I know for a fact that there's 2 or 3 guys that I fought that I knew through various means they were using something, and there'll be guys that you'd look at their physiques and you'd never think they were using anything.
Yeah.
But it's not just about physiques, because I'll give an example. James Toney, he's been popped twice for anabolic steroids, but he looks like a tub of goo.
Yeah.
So it's not just about physiques and stuff like that. It's a lot deeper than that.
Larry, do you know?
Yeah.
I think it was Tommy Morrison who said it years ago famously, and he said almost every top heavyweight boxer is using performance enhancing drugs. What's your take on that?
100%. I've got no enough. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not just heavyweights. I mean, it's all throughout the weight, but it's going to be more prominent in the heavyweight division for obvious reasons. Not having to make weight and so on and so forth. Although there are a lot of different drugs out there. It's not just about putting on muscle or putting on weight. There's things, for instance, like I got popped on EPO that increases your stamina. I think Shane Mosley got done for that. I would say throughout all the weights is prominent, but obviously, especially as being a heavyweight, it's most prominent.
Can I ask you, Larry? Do you know, with your background, a lot of people might not know how smart you are as a medicinal. You've got a doctorate in medicinal chemistry.
Yeah.
Were you not mad at yourself thinking, have I managed to let myself get caught? With your knowledge of how to do things and with the stuff you were taking, in a bit of it, you thought, how have I allowed myself to get caught? Or was the testing so random then that you just thought, I'm not going to get caught, why bother?
Yeah, it does go through my mind sometimes. I do think to myself, I was so stupid with all my knowledge and that, and just being laissez-faire. You know what I mean? It's if anyone
got caught, you'd argue the one person who shouldn't have got caught were you.
Yeah, but it just goes to show that anyone can be complacent, and when you get complacent, you get caught. So yeah.
So let's skip on a bit. So you moved. At first, you denied it and said you didn't know how it had happened. What made you then switch it to admitting that you'd admitted that you'd been doping? What made the switch? I just
got tired of all the lies. To be honest with you, I just got tired of all the lies, and they were throwing names at me. They were it was a nightmare, to be honest with you. So I just said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna fess up, and then they were like, okay, we also want to know what you were doing, how you were doing it, and your know-how and whatnot.
Yeah.
So then I said, that's I'll give you that, but to get that, I would want a reduction in my ban. So how did you? I don't know how to word this yet. How did you feel your dealings with UKAD were when you offered to offer everything up? How did you find your dealings with them? Like dealing with a gangster, basically. Because I didn't have any legal representation at that time. Yeah. And they just made everything seem like. See, the thing is, and I think a lot of the public get confused about this as well. Sports rules are not law. Yeah. But they make you feel like it's law.
Yeah.
So for instance, I'll give an example. As part of they knew that I had a few thousand Dianabol tabs in my possession when I got caught.
Why so
now? Sorry.
Why so few? Why only a few thousand?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, why so few? Why only a few thousand?
I don't know. I was a bit skint, but no. But so I had that in my possession, and when I went to one of their meetings, they said I had to bring it with me for whatever reason. So I brought it with me, and then they said at the end of it that they will accept the deal, but I need to leave the tablets with them. And I was quite perplexed as to why I need to leave that with them. But they were like, oh well, you know, it's a Class C drug, blah blah blah. But I was like, it's not illegal. It's lawful for me to have this. It's just not allowed by sports rules. But again, they had the lawyer and they were saying, oh yeah, well, you know, we need to have this and we need to take it from you and blah blah blah. And knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have allowed that to happen because they've basically taken my property away from me.
What were their explanations for wanting it? Did they say it was so that they could test the purity of it, or what were their reasons?
No, they just said they wanted it because I'm not allowed to have any performance enhancing drugs while I'm under sanction.
Right.
That was their.
But they may be afraid that you would distribute it to other boxers.
I don't know, but that's still no. They still have no basis in taking my property from me. That's the bottom line, you know. And they even, I mean, the funny thing is, when I agreed to it, we signed a contract, which stated that once I retire, they'll give me back those tablets.
Yeah.
Do you know that I asked for those tablets last year, and they've gone missing.
Oh.
3,000 Dianabol tablets have gone missing.
All 3,000 of them?
All 3,000 of them have gone missing. When I asked them where are my tablets, they said, oh, we'll first of all, they tried to deny that they had it, thinking I wouldn't keep the paperwork. So I emailed them the paperwork, and then they were like, oh, okay, we'll have a look. And they took ages. And then they finally came back to me, said they haven't got it. So I told them, look, you need to compensate me because that's my property. And they were like, okay, we'll speak to people. And they only got back to me, I think, about 3 weeks ago, saying that, oh, we're sorry, we can't compensate you because we're a public funded organization and we apologize.
Prior to the knock on your door when you wasn't in, was there a point in your mind where you thought, I'm not getting caught? They're not testing me. I'm not getting caught. This is just going to keep on going on and on and on.
To a certain point, yeah, because I knew the testing at the British level was pants. I knew the testing at the British level was pants. So yeah, I thought I could go through up to British title level and not have to worry too much about being tested and stuff.
Do you know what, Larry?
Do you know when do you know when you were saying you're representing yourself and you got no legal representation? Had UKAD got lawyers with them and that? Oh yeah. And didn't they say to you should go and get legal? Didn't anyone say to you need to get some legal representation?
Nope.
You're looking back on it now. Do you not find that a bit odd? It's like
most definitely.
If you get caught for something, first thing they say is, have you got a solicitor or do we appoint one? Just seems strange that you'd have gone through all that process and they'd never said to you, do you want to get some legal representation on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I call them gangsters, UKAD. They go under the guise that they're trying to clean up the sport, but the reality is they pick and choose when they're going to do that. Do you know what I mean? You know, they talk about wanting to go after Tyson Fury when they don't have their own house in order. Do you know what I mean? And hence why I'm going to be taking legal action against them for losing my property. But yeah, it's the UK anti-doping. They pick and choose. I mean, you've got the whole the whole thing with Mo Farah, for instance, they knew what was going on. Do you know what I mean? But they try and hide it.
Look, Mo's not got done for anything. We should point that out. Do you mean with his coach?
He's not been done for anything. But
his coach has had bad publicity, and he put it that way.
His coach. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the background. I mean, there's so many cases that UKAD are involved in. I'm not going to mention too many names because obviously a lot of people have not been, not been given a ban or sanction or whatever. So, there's a lot of cases where they've messed up. They've messed up, or they've tried to cover certain things. And it's just shady as fuck. It's just shady. It's just really, really shady.
When you walked out of that room and you agreed deal with them, Ade, Larry, tell me how you felt, because they'd offered you a reduced sentence for cooperating and telling them what you've been doing and how you're doing it, and they offered you a further reduction if you'd give up any names. When you agreed to do that and walked out of the room, how did you feel yourself? Were you just that sick of it? You thought, I don't care, and I'm just looking after myself. I've got to look after number one, or did you just? What were it like when they put that deal to you and you accepted it?
Well, I didn't put anyone in it, so it didn't really bother me one way. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna look after myself and screw everyone. You know what I mean? Because I didn't put anyone in it.
Did any around that time? Obviously, fellow boxers know what's happened. They know we obviously had this sit down with UKAD. Did anyone, and again, don't mention any names here, but did anyone reach out? Any professional boxers, almost making sure that you didn't give them up? Put it that way.
A couple.
Okay.
A couple.
Easy.
It's weird. I asked that. I say don't name any names. I want to know, but don't say anything.
Larry, would casual boxing fans know who those people are?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Wow. No, Larry, I was going to ask there, just not moving away from that at all, but would you be able to sort of describe to to fans and to boxers as well, what difference did you feel while using the performance enhancing drugs to then training and competing without them?
Yeah.
Can you let us know what the difference is? Because some people, we was having the talk the other week, weren't we? And we said, did performance enhancing drugs make you a better boxer? My argument was, it might not make you give you a better boxing brain. What it does do, it makes you a better athlete. It makes you bigger. It makes you stronger. It makes you faster. So if you become a better athlete, more powerful, fitter, stronger, faster, you are going to become a better boxer. So,
I agree with you completely, Anthony. It definitely makes you more athletic. But I would argue it can make you a better boxer, because what you got to remember about these drugs is that it allows you to train harder and recover faster.
Yeah.
So if I only have a certain amount of sessions that I can do in a day, and I can increase those sessions and make more of them skill sessions, then I could then increase my skill level, which then makes me a better boxer.
Of course, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So there is that side to it as well. But I have to say that for me it was a night and day difference using performance enhancing drugs.
Really?
When I was a professional boxer, I was working a full-time job, and I had to train, as most boxers do, obviously, and I had to train obviously around my job, and doing that naturally was a nightmare.
Yes.
And with the drugs, I was able to recover and go again and go again and go again. Do you know what I mean? I was like a machine, basically.
Yeah.
Is that where the came from?
Yeah, partly. But you're just able to go on and on and on and on and on. You never have a bad day in the gym. You know, it just allows you to keep training harder and harder and harder. So there's some people that have the notion that, if you use drugs, you don't have to train hard. Well, actually, it's the reverse. The drugs allow you to train harder, which allows you to benefit from the drugs. So if you're not training harder, then there's no point using no drugs.
No, I get it.
You know, so so I would argue that it does make you more athletic, stronger, and durable and everything like that. But I think that if it allows you to recover faster and therefore get more sessions in, if you're doing more skill sessions, then
you're going to become a better boxer.
Yeah, you could become a better boxer, definitely.
Larry, just quantify it a bit for us and for like casual fans who think it, and I read it and I pull my hair out. Sometimes people go, well, why would they take this? Why would they take that? And if someone's made 10 million, I'll go, well, there's your 10 million reasons. But how would you quantify it in terms of performance, Larry? Are you talking in how you felt? Is it 1%, 5%, 10%, 15%? What?
It's very difficult to put a number on it, but I mean, I would say anywhere between 10 to 50%.
That's big.
Yeah. It can, depending on what drugs you're using, because I can tell you this now. When I started off, I didn't start off using EPO. EPO came a little further on in my career, so I didn't have any very good stamina. So it only gave me a certain advantage over a few rounds. When I started using EPO, oh my God, that was like, I could go on forever. Seriously. Yeah, like.
We like Lance Armstrong on gym bike on EPO.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like I could literally go on forever. I was having sparring sessions where I was only having 20-second rest per round.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing 10 rounds. It was just amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Do you watch some boxers now and just know as you're watching it?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
You just think, he might not have popped, but I'm watching him and his stamina's unbelievable. Punches per round. Like, was you shocked when Jarrell Miller popped?
No, because a man that big being able to have his work rate, something's up.
Yeah.
Something's up.
Yeah.
Something's up. You know what I mean? So I wasn't surprised at all.
Do you use, me and Anthony often say this, do you use, when you look, Larry, how do you look? Do you ever, I still sometimes say eye test is one of the best tests. If something just doesn't sit right, they just don't look quite right, they just maybe look too big, or like you say, they're really heavy, but they're just still a bit too fast. How do you spot people? What is it you look for?
I tend to go.
Signs?
For me, telltale signs. It could be because there's so many different drugs now. I
was going to say, is it different signs for different drugs? Like
because like for EPO, for instance, it will be someone who didn't have much stamina, and now all of a sudden they've got all this stamina. Where did that come from? Or and you've seen a lot of boxers, a lot of old time guys do this. A lot of boxers who are at the tail end of their career, probably pushing 40, like me, and they come back and they've got a new physique from somewhere, like they've gone through puberty again. Do you know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense. That's a big red flag.
So you're having a late spring, you mean? Somebody was
exactly. That doesn't happen. That is impossible. Like the human body doesn't work like that.
Don't say that.
I know it's downhill from now on, isn't it? But I mean, physiques can be a telltale sign, but for me, it's over a period of time. Like, how has that physique changed over a period of time? Where did they start off at? Where are they now? What was their body composition then and now? It's that's a little bit more trickier. But I think performance wise, it's easier to if you see someone, if you see drastic changes from a fight to another, because as you know, Anthony yourself, like, I mean, all you guys know, but Anthony, obviously, mostly, you can't make drastic improvements from fight to fight. It is gradual. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you see a gradual change, a drastic change from one fight to the
Alarm
next.
bells are ringing, yeah, without doubt. Alarm bells are ringing.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
What about you? You've obviously, like you say, you've boxed at every level. You've come up against some amazing fighters. Are you ever opposite someone and thinking, boy, this kid's a bit too fast, a bit too strong? Don't you ever have red flags in your head when you're opposite some of the talent?
It's
not really. So not really, because I my thing in the ring is I assume everyone's on it. That way.
Really?
That way, you know what I mean? I'm clear. Like I can.
Is that though to make you feel better, Larry? Is that to make you feel like?
No, it's based on what I know. It's
you
based
just
on
think,
what
yeah,
I know.
it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
That's how you feel.
when I got popped a lot, and I said a lot of people are using. A lot of people were saying that, oh, Larry's just saying that because he got popped at sour grapes, blah blah blah. But then as more and more people got popped, they were thinking, oh, Larry actually was telling the truth. And now everyone sees that actually a lot more people are probably, well, especially in the heavyweight division anyway, a lot more people are probably on it than are not on it. So,
some people would argue, well, anti-doping's moved on a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. It's a different world. Testing's improved. Testing's got better. All these false negatives, false positives, contamination, which is always a lot of people throw up. Do you think testing's in? And look, you're more educated than us to answer this, actually, with your medical background. What do you think? Do you think the world of testing has moved on massively and it's harder to get away with it? Or do you think the game's moved on as well?
It's always going to be one step ahead.
It's always going to be one step ahead, unfortunately. Because here's the thing. I remember there was a guy called Memo Heredia. He actually was a strength and conditioner for Marquez when he fought Pacquiao.
Yeah.
And I remember they did an interview with him, and he's
Larry, go back 10
designer
seconds.
drugs that you can't test for. Now,
Larry, go back 10 seconds to Memo Heredia. It just cut off again.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So Memo Heredia, who was a strength and conditioner for Manuel Marquez, in his last fight with Pacquiao.
Yeah.
He was interviewed, and he said in that interview, look, there's many drugs out there that I helped create that are designer drugs that you can't test for to this day. Yeah. Now, if someone like that can say that, then it shows you that at the higher levels, the guys who can obviously afford these designer drugs, because they're not cheap, they ain't never going to get caught. They ain't never going to get caught. You know?
I'm just about to say that, Larry. Let's think of it from a designer perspective, if you can. So the best are taking the Louis Vuitton and the Gucci drugs. Where were you? Were you, and no disrespect to this, obviously financially, where were you in terms of the drug? Primark? Where were you?
I was actually in the Gucci part, but I just didn't use. I just didn't use the know-how that I did, but I just got complacent. For me, if I never got complacent, trust me, they never would have caught me. They never would have, because I had everything down to a fine art, including micro dosing, which a lot of people are doing now and getting away with it. That's another technique people use to get away with things, micro dosing.
All right, Larry. So you say you had it down to a fine art. Obviously, the guys at the top are not doing it themselves. They've obviously got strength and conditioning trainers. Were you doing all this yourself?
Yeah, because I had the degree.
Yeah.
I had the degree,
got the knowledge.
Why not? Do you know what I mean? I knew exactly what to do.
Sure.
So do you know what I mean? It takes an element out of it where there's not too many people that know what you're doing. You know.
All right. Let me ask you this. Sorry, Cron. Let me ask you this, Larry. From I'm a big boxing fan perspective, and sport is dangerous enough, right? Let's be honest. You know this. Anthony knows this. The sport is dangerous. Didn't you ever have that guilty conscience in you to think, wait, the sport is super dangerous anyway? I'm going into the ring, big guy, let's be honest, 18, 19 stone. I'm going in there almost like a loaded gun with all these drugs in my system. Was there never a guilty conscience side of you that thought, this is wrong, I can't do this, it's too dangerous already, people are dying in the ring, people are getting paralyzed in the ring, I'm going in there like a loaded gun. Did that never ever cross your mind?
No, because you have to. You see, I've heard a lot of people say that, right? But then you have to think about it, really think about it. First of all, if you're using performance enhancing, let's remember how this is the problem. And I'm not saying this about you. I'm just using it as a general.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't think about things when they actually make that you know, that suggestion that you know, basically when boxers get injured, it's usually through an accumulation of punishment, and it's usually from the accumulation through sparring, right? We know this because studies have been done in it, right? So to say that, oh, I'm the one that's gone in there to injure someone because I'm on performance enhancing drugs, you can't say that because you don't know that.
I'm saying that you are.
No,
I'm just saying that you obviously admitted earlier that you're bigger, you're stronger, you're faster, you're a big, strong lad naturally anyway.
Yeah.
Just saying that you naturally going in there with all your strength and size could do damage. You now on these extra drugs, surely you can do a bit more damage. That's what I'm saying.
But like I said, the damage is done through accumulation of punishment. So it's not just the one shot, the one, you know what I mean? That does the damage. It's the accumulation. So therefore, and also you have to keep in mind, if I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I can end the fight quicker, which means you don't take as much punishment.
And I'm arguing as well that you're looking at people, Larry, and thinking, well, you're probably on it. You're on it anyway. I think you're on it, so I'm on it.
And that's another thing as well. That's another thing as well. So
everyone's doing it, so I've got to. So next person thinks, well, he must be doing it, so I've got to, and it just spirals and goes up and up and up.
That's the unfortunate part of this whole doping, anti-doping circle. You know, because a lot of people are going to assume that people are, you know, and most of the time rightly, you know, but I mean, don't get me wrong. There's been plenty of boxers that I know for a fact, and I can say, I'm not just saying this because you're here, Anthony. I know for a fact that you never used anything. So,
thank you. Thank you.
I know for a fact you never used anything. So, you know, but like what I'm trying to say is that there's because it is prevalent in the sport, a lot of people are going to assume that most boxers are using, and therefore if they want to be competitive, they need to get it, they need to use as well. And I still get boxers coming up to me asking if they should use.
Really?
And you know, I still get it when I go to the gyms occasionally to train and whatnot. And obviously I don't give any advice as to that. I said, look, you need to make up your own mind. You're your own person. You're an adult. You need to make up your own mind. I you know, I can't advise you on that. But it just goes to show you that, you know, boxers still see what's going on, and they're clocking on. They're clocking on.
Yeah.
You know, and it is a shame because yes, you know, the sport is hard already. Like, and I don't mean about injuries and stuff. I'm just talking about the daily grind that someone in a professional sport still has to work a full-time job. Yeah. You know, to make ends meet, whereas most other people in professional sports don't have to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's you know, it's a very, very, very hard life, and I feel for all the boxers, to be honest with you. But that's why I would say that they have to make that decision. Yeah. And you know, and then go with whatever they feel in their gut.
Larry, I'm guessing that you still got a bit of love for boxing. I know acting, you mean love now, but I mean, you know, you say you'll go in the gym, you'll take over. Do you know when you're watching a mega fight between two of the sports superstars, do you know, in the back of your mind, do you think there's very little chance that these two are clean, or do you think, you know, we mentioned before about the top athletes in the sport, do you think they're doing it to compete, or do you think, you know what, he might just be a freak, he might be a one-off, he doesn't do it? How do you feel about that? You know when there's a super fight, Do you suspect both? Automatically, do you just suspect both lads?
Like I said to you when I was boxing, I assume everyone's doing it. So
even if they've if they've just had a bad piece of steak.
See, imagine that. Look at that crappy excuse. Do you know what I mean? And then people buy it. It's just amazing to me, honestly. Like, but this is why people ain't gonna stop, because people are seeing that. People are seeing people get away with things like that, and they're gonna be like, well, obviously he's doing it at the top. I need to do it to get there. You know, it's I personally
compare it from the UK to the US. Obviously, you've spent time in the US, sort of in gyms. You've done it over here in the UK. Is it more rife in the US than it is over here?
I think it was, but I think the UK are now catching up. UK are now catching up, yeah, because America's always had this thing about winning. You know, America's always had this thing about winning, win at all costs. You know, you've got to win. Yeah. Whereas the UK have always been, up until recently, play fair. Yeah. You know, doesn't matter about the winning, just play fair.
No, they've embraced the runner-up, haven't they? They've embraced the runner-up still.
Yeah.
America, they love a winner.
Lately, the UK have been more about winning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you can see the difference.
That's very interesting. You're right. I remember years ago it was okay for Tim Henman to get to the quarterfinals of women. Now it's like, not anymore.
No, it's right. It's right.
Yeah.
Well, look at British cycling, and it were a big feat for a cyclist from Britain to enter Tour de France and finish it. Now it's like you've got to win or nothing, and all of a sudden everybody wins.
Is he still there?
You there, Larry?
That's it.
By the way, this is fascinating.
Yeah, unreal.
This is fascinating.
If UKAD, British boxing, we're going to come to you now and said, Larry, you help us now. What do we do to eradicate doping in boxing? Where would you? Is it impossible to even start to think about it, or what would you do?
You could reduce it, but you can't eradicate it. Doping is entrenched in all sports. It's going to be impossible to eradicate it. It's going to be impossible to eradicate it. Like I said, all the top guys are doing what they're doing, and they're never going to get caught. You know, so if all the top guys are doing what they're doing and never going to get caught, how are you going to eradicate it? You know, so even if someone says, okay, well, I'm gonna wait until I get to the top before I start doping, which a lot of people have started, done. You know, it's
somebody who's got caught. What do you think to the argument of if you get caught twice, it's a lifetime ban, which is something some people say. Some people say, look, first ban 2 years, second time lifetime. Do you think that it can be policed through bans? Do you think there's anything that can be done to make it more worrying that if you do get caught? Because for me, it should be like if the police pull you over and breathalyse you. If you fail that breathalyzer, they don't care if you've had your Nanan's sherry trifle and some cough medicine and that's what's pushed you over. You fail or you pass, and that's it. It's black and white. Do you think if there was stricter conditions in where no excuse was kind of viable, it'd be easier to enforce anti-doping?
No,
it won't stop you.
It won't stop anyone, because at the end of the day, there's money to be made.
Yeah.
There's money to be made, and where there's money to be made, people will push the boundaries no matter what and take chances no matter what. You know, Ben Johnson's coach, Charlie Francis, he always said that he always believed that the natural hormones in the body, like testosterone, growth hormone, EPO, they should be allowed in competition. And then what you do then is you test the athletes for their health markers. So that way you're killing two birds with one stone, because the whole ethos behind anti-doping is you make the sport safer for athletes, and you make it fairer for athletes. Now, let's go to the fair part first of all. Sport is inherently unfair. You've got someone's going to have better genetics than you. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have more money than you. They can afford better food, better equipment. That's not fair.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about fairness in sport is bullshit. So if you're going to talk about being fair and have a true level playing field, then you let people, to a certain extent, like I said, Charlie Francis said that he would suggest that people are allowed to use the natural hormones in their body, and then you test the athletes from their health markers. So if their liver values are up or their kidney values are up, then you ban them. So then you're banning them from a place of health. You know, I always thought that was a good idea. Because when you think about it, you're not going to eradicate doping, and in that way you make it a lot safer.
Larry, sorry, I
always thought that was quite.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to quickly go back. Apologies, you probably answered this, but I can't remember. When you first entered boxing, that very first, did you just immediately say or know to yourself that, yep, I'm definitely going to cheat because I'm entering this sport and I know already that it's not a level playing field? Was there ever part of you that was like, no, not yet, or did you just start immediately?
No, I started immediately because I already knew boxers they were using.
Yeah.
You got to remember, I was getting some of my stuff from one of the biggest suppliers in Britain as well, and he was supplying all sorts of athletes, track and field, boxers, gymnasts, you know, all sorts. So I knew who was using, who wasn't.
Yeah.
I had a good idea, and I've got a lot of friends who know boxers from the past, and I've heard from very credible people, you know, boxers who people wouldn't think of use stuff, but they have, you know. But remember, you were talking about in the 70s and stuff when it wasn't even banned, it wasn't even tested for. So
does that change your love for the sport? Like coming into the sport and knowing this, or are you still a massive fan of boxing, or does that kind of made you kind of?
I'm not as big a fan of boxing as I used to be, but it's nothing to do with the doping. It's more to do with the politics.
Yeah.
More to do with the politics of boxing and the way it's run, and the fact that, as I said earlier, you know, you can be a professional in a sport, but you can't earn a living at it. Very few boxers earn a living at boxing. You know, I have to say I feel very jaded by that, and I feel sorry for a lot of guys that I still know that box, and they're still finding it hard, and they're still, you know, going through it every single day. You know, and I see them struggling, and it's disheartening for me, you know, to see them like that, because, you know, you want to see people succeed at their dreams, especially when they're nice people and they work hard. But the way the sport is, it's not conducive to it, you know.
Do you think the fans care as much about drug cheats in boxing as they do other sports? When Ben Johnson got caught years ago, it was outcry. Lance Armstrong, you know, outcry. Canelo recently, again, I'm trying to think of a big name.
Forgiven.
Nothing. Forgiven, fighting 6 months later against Golovkin. Do you think fans care as much as they say they care? Do you think the media care as much as they should?
I don't think the fans really give a shit. I'll be honest with you. I don't really think they care as much as most other sports do. Yeah. As you rightly pointed out, you know, any other sport, when if their athletes pop, there's a big outcry. In boxing, there's nothing, you know. And again, I'm only using this as an example because I love the guy. But when Tyson Fury won the title, no one mentioned anything about, because officially he did pop, you know. Officially he did pop, but no one mentioned anything about that. So it just goes to show you that people don't really care. People in boxing don't really care. And that's why I'm saying that people should think again about how to deal with this issue, you know, and maybe look at alternatives.
Does it leave you a sense of bitterness a little bit, Larry, that you were not run out of sport, but you took a big whacking ban, a 4-year ban. You had to negotiate, you had to get it down. But these other boxers who were getting failures, coming up with excuses of how it happened, and they're getting either no ban or slight bans or 6 months, whereas you didn't. You owned up and took the full 4 year. Do you just part of you now think, oh, why didn't I just try and bullshit my way through it and say I don't know, I'd run over a cat and bit its head off or something? You know what I mean? Whatever stupid, whatever excuse you could come up with. You know what I mean? Why didn't I go down that route?
Yeah, I was thinking of saying that my mum stabbed me with the syringe, but yeah, that wouldn't quite work. No, listen, I'm a big believer in whatever's chosen for you is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So that was what all of this was what was meant to happen to me. So I have no ill will at all. I have no bitter feelings. I don't think that at all.
That was going to be my next question. I think that you just answered it. So if you could turn back the clock, you wouldn't change a thing?
No.
No, you've got to appreciate the honesty, man.
No.
Final question from me, Larry, and this might be a tough one to ask. I don't know if you heard me there. Final question from me. This is a difficult one. I appreciate, so don't have to answer if you don't want to. How many of the top boxers, percentage-wise, now do you think might be doing PEDs?
Top boxers.
Yeah. So world level and above.
Let's call them pay-per-view type standard.
Yeah.
80 to 90%.
Okay, now.
Wow.
Yeah. 80 to 90%. Yeah. That shouldn't even surprise you, Ade, because you've seen what's going on. You've seen what's been going on.
No,
come across some guys where you thought, this guy's on something.
Mate, there's certain, hand on heart, I genuinely believe I fought certainly one of the all-time greats. And but I've been around other boxers where super suspicious, where you think that just doesn't add up. That just doesn't add up. Where I've been around a lot of great fighters and I've never seen anything remotely near that. Where I thought, listen, you know what it feels if you get out the ring after a hard 12-round spar, and then it takes a few days to recover. That's you won't do many of them in a camp. But then if you're seeing certain fighters doing that, stepping out the ring, hitting pads, flying around the bag like there's nothing wrong with them, it's like alarm bells go off in your head. Do you know what I mean? Alarm bells go off in your head. So I get it. Like you're saying, it's you've just been honest. You've just been honest and saying that how it is, Larry.
Yeah, I mean it's funny how you mentioned about the sparring. I remember when I was training in the wild card, I was training hard. I think it was when I was training for the Southern Area title as well. Yeah. And we used to spar on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know your suck. I know you've been down there. It's hard sparring over there. There's no easy sparring. It's hard sparring, and you're broken up every time you spar out there. And it got and I saw guys who I won't mention do really hard spars and just come back the next day, not even 2 days after, the next day, and do another one, and the next day and do another one. And even I'm that's on stuff. I'm thinking, how are you doing that?
Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying.
If you were taking it and couldn't do that, then what were they taking that they could?
Exactly. You know.
Right.
So
all we can do really is thank you for your absolute honesty, because hopefully it gives fans who don't really have an understanding of what it actually entails when you do get popped, what the process is it fair, is it not fair, and just kind of where you go from there, because I think it's a very murky water that fans kind of don't understand.
Yeah, it's the side of things that the fans don't really have access to in terms of knowing what goes on. So it was my pleasure to kind of open it up to to people and to let them know what really goes on,
Right, well, brilliant. Well, look,
thank you so much, dude.
Wish you every good luck.
Appreciate it.
And if I don't know about Ade and Anthony, but if Rock wants to give me his autograph, he can do.
Larry, no, thank you. Honestly, really appreciate it.
Honestly, Larry, that's fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Unreal.
Take care,
No,
man.
thanks, guys. Appreciate
Take care,
it.
Larry. Take care.
You take care, man.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Right.
Hi, welcome to the Black Eyed Barber Show. Make sure you subscribe and like on the page.
Look at you. You're running in circles, which way will you turn?